My name's Evan. I'm 28 now. After my divorce, I moved to a small town in Alabama called Chadam. With nowhere else to go, I ended up in my grandfather's old house. He left it to the family when he passed. 10 acres of woods surrounded it, and the place was isolated, quiet. I thought I'd enjoy that part. The house itself was old, wood floors that creaked, doors that stuck, and a permanent chill no matter the thermostat. But it was free, so I made it home. The first few nights were uneventful. I unpacked, cleaned, had a few beers on the porch, just wind through the trees, and the occasional owl. Peaceful. That changed on the 7th night. I was about to fall asleep when I heard it, a low, broken whistling outside. Not a song, not even in tune, just a sound slowly drifting through the woods. I figured maybe a drunk neighbor or a hunter passing through. But then it happened again the next night. Same tune, same time, around 1:17 a.m. This time it was closer. I grabbed my flashlight and checked around the yard. No footprints, no broken branches, just the whistling, fading, deeper into the woods. Every night, 1:17, like clockwork. I called the sheriff's office. An older deputy, I'll call him H, came out. I told him what I'd been hearing. He went quiet, then said, "Your grandfather used to call us about the same thing. Said someone was whistling around the property late at night, every spring. We never found anything." Apparently, this had been happening for years. After that, I kept the doors locked, windows checked, chairs under the doorknobs. But the whistling just kept getting closer. One night, I heard it behind the shed, then the next from the front porch. 3 long whistles, then silence. The next night, I swear it came from under the floorboards, like someone was in the crawl space beneath the house, whistling up through the vents. I didn't sleep. I searched the attic the next day, desperate for answers, and found a box of my grandfather's journals. He'd written about it too. Same time of year, same sound, every spring. After Grandma passed, he'd sit at the front door with a rifle. I called Deputy H again. He read the journals and said, "If someone knocks and you don't know who it is, don't open the door." That night, I stayed up, sat on the couch with a shotgun I barely knew how to use. 1:17 a.m. The whistling started, but this time, it came from the hallway, inside the house. I froze. The hallway light was off. I heard the sound getting closer, step by step. I stood up and shouted, "Who's there?" Silence. I flipped the light on. No one was there. I didn't sleep after that. 2 days went by. No noise. No movement. I thought maybe it was over. But on the 3rd night, I woke up to a new sound. Knocking. Slow, deliberate knocks at the back door. Then silence. A minute later, a floorboard creaked. Then another. The hallway light went out. I grabbed the shotgun, heart pounding, and stepped into the hallway. At the far end, I saw a figure, dressed in black, pale face, just standing there, watching me. I raised the shotgun and screamed, "Don't move." They didn't. But then, slowly, they turned, like they were about to run. "Stop!" I yelled, nervously. They bolted. I heard them stomp through the house and out the front door. I ran outside and fired a shot into the dark, yelling, "Don't come back." I drove to town and slept in my truck that night. Deputy H came the next morning. The front door was unlocked. Whoever it was, they had a key. Nothing was stolen, nothing was broken, but someone had been inside. someone who'd been watching for a long time. I changed the locks that same day and left for my parents' house out of state. We sold the house eventually. My dad left out the part about the stalker who had haunted our family for decades. I don't know who it was. I don't know why they picked our house. But I'll never live that far from civilization again. When I was a kid, my parents worked nonstop, 2 jobs each just to keep us afloat. So they hired a babysitter off some site, a young woman named Michelle. She was great, kind, energetic, way more fun than any grumpy old nanny. For months, she watched over my brother Cam and me. Then summer came, and my parents decided to send us to our grandparents' place in Texas for a few months. They lived in a big cabin, surrounded by open fields and woods. It was beautiful, but remote. We arrived, said our hellos, and Grandpa gave us a tour. That night, Cam and I shared a room with a bunk bed and a TV. We stayed up watching cartoons. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps outside our window, heavy ones. I couldn't see anything through the blinds, but I knew someone, or something, was out there. Then, I heard a grunt. Someone was trying to open the window. I ran to my parents' room. They checked outside. Nothing. The next day, things seemed fine. We fed animals, played outside. But while walking the dog near the woods, I saw something. A black figure standing behind a tree, watching us. When I told my grandpa, it was already gone. That night, I fell asleep again, only to wake up around 1 a.m. Someone was humming outside the window, to the theme song of the cartoon still playing on TV. Then I heard a voice. "Hey, it's Grandpa. Come out here, kid. I want to show you something cool." Something felt off, but I was still young. I slipped on my shoes and went outside. The stars were bright. I walked around to the side of the house, and there he was, Grandpa. He reached out his hand. I took it. We started walking toward the barn. I asked where we were going, but he didn't answer. Then I looked at his hand. It wasn't Grandpa's hand. It was younger, leaner. My heart sank. Then I saw it, an axe handle sticking out of his pants. Just then, I heard my real grandpa's voice shouting from the house. The man looked back. In that moment, I yanked my hand free and ran as fast as I could back inside. The cops came quickly. They found the man hiding in a ditch nearby, with tools from the barn and an axe in his pants. He turned out to be Michelle's ex-boyfriend. He admitted he'd been stalking us for weeks, planning to use me to get Michelle back. He said he wasn't going to hurt me, just scare her, make her come back to him. But we all know how that kind of story usually ends. When I was 7, I lived in a small countryside village with fewer than 100 people. Everyone knew each other by name, or more accurately, by bloodline. If you asked someone, "Who are your parents?" they'd give you their last name and a family history. That's just how it worked. It was the kind of place where people didn't lock their doors, and kids were allowed to roam freely, without adult supervision. My best friend Julian and I were inseparable back then. It was the middle of summer, scorching hot, the kind of heat that stuck to your skin even in the shade. We were wandering the village in search of something cold to drink. All we wanted was a couple cans of soda. Problem was, we didn't have enough money between us. That's when an old woman called out from her garden. She was one of the village elders, someone Julian said was harmless but kinda weird. She waved us over and offered a deal. If we filled 2 large plastic bags with fresh mint leaves, she'd buy us as much soda as we wanted from the corner store. She needed the mint for some sort of birthday tea she was making. Seemed like a win-win. We wouldn't have to ask our parents for money, and we'd be heroes with ice-cold soda in our hands. So we searched and searched. It was blazing hot. Our shirts were soaked with sweat, and the only thing we'd managed to fill was a single corner of one bag. Most of the usual garden patches were dry or trampled. We wandered out of the village edge, hoping to find a larger patch of mint before the sun went down. That's when we saw them, 2 older teens walking toward us from the far side of a hill. They looked off. Maybe 16 or 17, dressed all in black. Tight pants, oversized hoodies, even though it was summer. Something about the way they moved immediately made my skin crawl, but at the time, I couldn't explain why. They stopped just a few feet in front of us. "Are you kids alone?" one of them asked, in a soft, almost sing-song voice. Julian stiffened. He didn't answer. Instead, he gave me a look, a sharp side eye and a slight shake of the head. But I didn't get the message. I smiled like an idiot and said, "Yeah, we're just looking for mint." I remember one of them tilting his head when I said that. I think he even smirked. The other guy crouched beside me and reached out to pat my head like I was a puppy. Julian stepped forward immediately and pulled me back by the arm. "Who are your parents?" he asked them firmly. That question meant something here. If you didn't have an answer, it meant you didn't belong. These guys didn't. They didn't answer. Instead, one of them pointed up to the hill they'd come from and said, "We saw a big patch of mint up there. Loads of it. We can show you." Now Julian and I knew that hill. We'd played hide and seek in its woods with the other village kids countless times. There was no mint field, just wild grass, corn, grapes, and a few scattered watermelons if you ventured far enough. But I was still too trusting, too thirsty, too stupid to piece things together. "Let's go," I whispered to Julian, tugging his arm. So we followed. At first it felt like an adventure, but with every step away from the village the air grew heavier. I realized I couldn't see the rooftops anymore. The sound of birds disappeared. It was just the 4 of us now, and the woods. Julian's grip on my hand tightened. His palm was clammy. The guys kept looking back at us with fake smiles. Every time I tried to ask how far the field was, they'd say, "Not far now," or "Just over this ridge." But there were no ridges, no sign of mint, just dense forest ahead. Something inside me finally clicked. My chest tightened. My legs felt like stone. I wanted to stop walking, but I didn't, because in that moment I felt something terrifying. If either of us tried to run, I didn't know if we'd make it. Then Julian leaned in close to my ear and whispered the single word that made my blood run cold. "Run." He took off like lightning, and I didn't hesitate. We bolted downhill, the 2 teens shouting behind us. I could hear them crashing through the brush, their footsteps too close, their voices too angry. I don't know how we didn't fall. We were sprinting full speed down uneven slopes, tree branches whipping past us, sharp rocks underfoot. I couldn't breathe. My lungs burned. I think I was crying, but I didn't stop. Eventually, I heard the shouting fade. When we broke through the trees and saw the rooftops of the village again, I felt like I could finally breathe. We ran straight to the old woman's house. She saw us, pale-faced and soaked in tears, and pulled us inside. She wrapped us in blankets and gave us chocolate. Julian told her what happened, though he twisted the story, said he was the one who wanted to follow the strangers and I didn't. I think he wanted to protect me from getting in trouble. He got grounded for a month. I stayed quiet. I couldn't stop shaking for days. We never saw those guys again. We didn't even know their names. No one in the village had ever seen them before, and no one ever saw them after. Years later, now that I'm older, I realize how close we were to something unimaginably dark. If Julian hadn't been there, if I had been alone, if I had walked just a little further into those woods, I don't think I'd be here to tell this story.